Runaway Bride in the Seychelles Part 2. Chapter 7, Temptation in Silk. The rain began like a whisper. Then it roared. It rolled in just after sunset, fast and furious, a wall of wind and water slamming into the island like a jealous god. The sea turned from turquoise to gunmetal in minutes. Palms thrashed. The sky cracked open with thunder so loud it rattled the villa's glass walls. Allegra stood barefoot in the center of the living room, her arms crossed over Kai's white button-down, which she'd quietly claimed as her own. Lightning flashed, illuminating the tension in her jaw. She was trying not to flinch, but her nerves betrayed her every time the thunder hit. She hated storms. Her father used to say storms were nature's way of reminding humans who was boss. Kai, on the other hand, didn't flinch. He moved with calm precision through the villa, securing windows, checking the backup generator, setting up infrared perimeter alerts. She watched him like a prisoner watches a guard, with fascination and resentment. "I thought you said the island was safe," she said, raising her voice over the pounding rain. Kai didn't look up. "I said the island was secure. Nature doesn't care about walls." Lightning struck just offshore. The whole jungle flashed white for a second, then fell back into darkness. The power flickered. Then, went out entirely. Everything plunged into black. Allegra froze. A second later, soft emergency lights glowed from the ceiling, dim, warm, and entirely too intimate. The villa now looked like a dream or a memory, soft shadows, wet skin, silk and stone and tension. Kai returned to the room with a bottle of dark rum and 2 glasses. She raised an eyebrow. "Really? Your emergency protocol includes rum?" He poured. "It's the Seychelles. Not a war zone. Yet." He handed her a glass, and for a moment their fingers touched. The contact sent a ripple up her spine. They sat opposite each other, the storm raging outside like a third character, uninvited, but omnipresent. She took a sip. Strong. Smooth. It tasted like danger. He sat back, stretching his legs out on the woven rug, arms loose at his sides, shirt clinging to him after his rounds in the rain. The candlelight cast golden shadows along his jaw, across the scar that peeked from his collar. Allegra set down her glass. "You're different." Kai arched a brow. "So are you." "No, I mean it. You used to flinch when I made a joke. You used to stand like a statue at every event, like you were waiting for someone to attack." "I was. And now?" He looked at her, long and hard. "Now," he said, "I know what happens when I let my guard down." She swallowed. Neither of them had to say it. The kiss. Marrakech. The moment that burned them both and branded them with a regret neither had shaken off since. "Why did you leave?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the wind. He didn't answer right away. "I couldn't stay," he said finally. "Not after I felt what it was like to want you. You could have told me that. I knew what your father would do. I didn't want to survive a bullet only to watch him destroy you for loving me." Her heart cracked a little. "You think he hasn't been doing that anyway?" Kai stood, walking to the window, watching the rain slash the glass in sheets. "You asked me to protect you," he said. "So that's what I'm doing." She rose too, the hem of the oversized shirt brushing her thighs, bare legs glowing in the soft light. She walked toward him, glass forgotten, eyes locked on his back. "What if I want protection from myself?" He turned. Her eyes were fierce now, storm-lit, lips parted, breathing heavy like something was about to break loose. He stepped forward, slowly. So did she. They were just inches apart now, heat rising between them like steam from the drenched jungle outside. Allegra, he said, his voice low and rough, this isn't part of the deal. It should have been, she whispered. She leaned up. Their lips met. Soft. At first. Almost scared. But then. Inferno. All restraint cracked, shattered like lightning in glass. Kai pulled her to him like he'd been waiting 3 years to do it, his hands sliding into her damp hair, her name breaking from his lips like a prayer. She kissed him like she was drowning and he was the only breath left in the world. The storm screamed around them, but nothing compared to the heat behind their skin. The kiss deepened. Grew savage. Hands tangled in shirts and skin. His mouth traced her jaw, her throat, her shoulder, like he needed to memorize her all over again. Allegra gasped as he lifted her effortless, carried her to the bed like she weighed nothing, his mouth never leaving hers. Her body melted against his, mind dizzy, heart galloping toward something she couldn't stop now even if she wanted to. They broke apart for half a second. This is a mistake, he whispered. I don't care, she said, pulling him back to her lips. I've made worse. The wind howled. The rain raged. And inside the villa, time melted. Nothing existed outside that room. Not her father. Not Lucien. Not the contract. Not the danger. Only this. Only them. Only the storm, and the fire it awakened. Chapter 8, The Hacker and the Heiress. Allegra woke to the sound of glass tapping. It was soft at first, a rhythm almost too quiet to notice, like fingers drumming on a crystal flute. She stirred, her bare legs tangled in warm sheets, the air still humming with the scent of rum, salt, and him. Kai. She reached across the bed. Empty. Still warm, but already cold enough to make her heart flinch. The tapping grew louder. She sat up. It wasn't coming from inside. She wrapped a blanket around herself and padded barefoot toward the glass wall facing the jungle. The morning sun was just beginning to slice through the misty canopy. But something about the light felt wrong. The jungle was too still. Even the birds weren't singing. She turned, and froze. Across the room, Kai stood at the security console, shirtless, rigid, and silent. Every screen, every single feed from the thermal cameras, motion sensors, and encrypted surveillance network, was black. No signal, he muttered. Allegra's stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means someone's in my system. He tapped a code into the main panel. Nothing responded. The grid stayed blank. One of the screens blinked, flashed static, and died again. No one can get into your system, she said, trying to keep her voice level. No one's supposed to. He turned to her, and for the first time since she arrived, she saw something in his face she hadn't expected from Kai Wolfe. Uncertainty. Could it be a glitch, she asked, though she already knew the answer. No. This was precise. Strategic. They disabled the signal first. Then the firewalls. Whoever this is, he paused, fingers flying over a backup keyboard, they've been tracking us for at least a day. Allegra's chest tightened. Then they know I'm here. He looked up. They don't just know. They're watching. Suddenly, a high-pitched whine filled the room. Kai's head snapped toward the window. What is that? She whispered. He didn't answer. He lunged forward, tackled her to the floor, covering her with his body just as. Boom! The sky lit up white, then red. The jungle exploded. Flames erupted just yards from the villa, trees splintered, smoke billowing into the air like black ribbons. A drone, weaponized and cloaked, had detonated on the edge of the clearing. The shockwave shook the glass, rattling the entire villa. Allegra's ears rang. She felt Kai's heart pounding through his chest, pressed against hers as he shielded her. For a few terrifying seconds, the only sound was fire. Then Kai rolled off her, scanning the sky with predator eyes. "Was that for you?" she asked, voice shaking. "No," he said. "That was a warning." Allegra sat up slowly, her breath ragged. The heat from the blast still radiated through the glass. "They're close, aren't they?" Kai didn't answer. He was already activating the secondary grid, manual locks, hidden compartments, an old-school survival protocol she'd only seen in war movies. She stood, shaking. "You said this place was off the map." "It was." His jaw clenched. "But someone mapped it." Allegra's mind raced. Her father. Maybe. But her father didn't use drones, he used lawyers, politicians, power plays. Lucien. She remembered his face, smiling at her wedding rehearsal like a cobra in a tux. He had money, military ties, and rage boiling under the skin of sophistication. But this was surgical. Cold. "This wasn't about scaring me," she said. "They want you, to." Kai didn't flinch. "That's what happens when you walk away from powerful people." She stepped toward him, eyes burning. "I didn't walk away. I ran. Because they never asked what I wanted. Because they owned me." "They don't anymore," he said, voice low and hard. "Then why does it still feel like they're in my lungs, Kai?" Her voice cracked. "Why do I feel like I can't breathe even here, on the other side of the world?" He looked at her, really looked at her, and his expression shifted. Less soldier. More man. "You're not safe anymore," he said. "Not in the way you think. This isn't a tantrum, Allegra. This is a war." She swallowed hard. "Then teach me how to fight." He hesitated. "You sure?" "Yes." He nodded slowly. "Then we start now." He handed her a weapon. Lightweight, compact, designed for precision. Allegra took it in both hands. It was heavier than she expected. Outside, the fire crackled in the distance, smoke curling like a serpent into the dawn sky. Whoever was coming, they were already close. And now? She was done running. Chapter 9, Diamonds and Deceit. It began with the scent of cologne. Not the salt and sweat of Kai. Not the sharp, clean bite of jungle air. This scent was expensive. Synthetic. Smothering. Something you'd find in the lobby of a five-star hotel in Geneva or sprayed onto a silk pocket square by a man who always ordered the most expensive wine, because he never tasted it. Allegra's skin prickled before she even turned. She was standing by the villa's edge, overlooking the scorched line of jungle where the drone had exploded the day before. Her fingers were still sore from gripping the training pistol Kai had handed her. Her stomach ached from the intense drills, sprints, rolls, escapes. He'd made her repeat everything 10 times over. And it still hadn't prepared her for this. Lucien Beaumont stood at the base of the deck stairs. Tan. Smiling. Wearing loafers. Like he'd dropped by for an afternoon espresso rather than crossed an ocean to find the woman who'd humiliated him on their wedding day. He held a single white rose. "Darling," he called up sweetly. "You've outdone yourself." Allegra's mouth went dry. Her hand reached for the emergency trigger button Kai had installed into the side of the railing. "I thought about bringing champagne," Lucien said, stepping up slowly, one hand in his pocket, "but then I remembered, you prefer rum these days. Or is that just your bodyguard's taste rubbing off on you?" Her voice came out like smoke. "You're trespassing. And you," he said with a smile too smooth to be real, "are technically still engaged to me. I left you at the altar." Lucien chuckled as if they were joking over cocktails. Yes, you did. In a very public, humiliating, catastrophic way." She tightened her grip on the railing. "Where's Kai?" he asked casually, glancing toward the trees. "Don't tell me he's still playing Rambo. He's so tiresome. All that brooding and growling. A bit much, don't you think?" She didn't answer. "Listen," Lucien said, brushing invisible lint from his crisp white shirt, "I'm not here to hurt you. Lie. I'm here to help you see reason." "Bigger lie." He stepped onto the deck. The jungle held its breath. "I spoke with your father," Lucien went on, slipping the rose onto a side table like a calling card. "He's very disappointed, Allegra. You didn't just run from a marriage. You ran from a merger. From legacy. From destiny." "You mean money?" she spat. He didn't deny it. "Let's not insult each other with fairy tales," Lucien said with a cool smile. "We both know what this has always been about." Her pulse thudded. "Control. Power," he corrected. "The kind your name is worth. You're a Moreau. You don't just get to throw that away because some tattooed mercenary whispered sweet nothings into your ear in Marrakech." She stared at him, fury rising. "You don't know anything about Kai." Lucien leaned in slightly. "I know enough to put a bounty on his head." That was when Allegra saw him. Behind Lucien. Standing casually beneath the jungle canopy like he belonged there. The hitman. Tall. Blonde. Silent. Dressed like a tourist. With eyes like black ice and a shoulder holster just barely visible beneath his linen shirt. Her blood went cold. Lucien caught her gaze and smiled wider. "Oh, don't worry. He's not here for you. Not unless you make things difficult." She didn't look away. "You'll never get my father's money." Lucien clicked his tongue. "But that's the beauty of it, darling. I don't need the money. I just need you." She recoiled. "I reinstate the engagement," he said, circling her like a vulture. "We announce it was all a misunderstanding. You sign some nice little documents. The Moreau board relaxes. The assets stay intact. Everyone sleeps happy. And if not..." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Your precious protector disappears. Forever." That's when Kai appeared. No sound. No warning. Just sudden, violent presence. He came out of the jungle behind the hitman, grabbed him by the back of the neck, and slammed him face first into the nearest tree. The man crumpled with a grunt. Didn't get up. Lucien spun around, startled. Then sneered. "I was wondering when you'd show up." Kai's gun was already aimed, steady in one hand. "You've got 60 seconds to get off my island." Lucien raised his hands, ever the showman. "I'm unarmed." Kai's voice was ice. Doesn't matter. Allegra stepped forward now, something steel-hard rising in her chest. Get out, Lucien. He looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. You don't get to say no to me, he said softly. I just did. He stared for a long moment. Then something in his expression flickered, something that almost resembled sadness. Then it vanished. Fine, he said coolly. But don't think this ends here. He turned and descended the stairs, stepping over his unconscious mercenary like luggage left behind. Allegra didn't breathe until he disappeared into the trees. Kai kept his gun trained until the jungle swallowed them both. Only then did he lower it. He brought a hired killer to a negotiation. Lucien doesn't negotiate, Allegra said, heart hammering. He invades. Kai looked at her, eyes storm dark. We need to move. Now. She stepped closer, her voice low but burning. No more hiding, Kai. He's not going to stop. My family's not going to stop. I know. So we fight. He looked at her then, not as the heiress he once protected, not as the woman he kissed in a war zone, but as his equal. As his partner. And this time, he nodded. Then we fight. Chapter 10, Betrayal at Sunset. The sun bled into the sea like a dying ember. Allegra stood ankle-deep in the surf, the hem of her linen dress soaked and clinging to her legs. The air was thick with salt, the tide warm and gentle against her skin. The jungle behind her rustled faintly, but the villa, Kai's fortress of shadows and surveillance, was out of sight now. She had run to the beach to breathe. After Lucien's sudden exit that morning, after Kai's brutal takedown of the hitman and the silent storm that had lingered between them all day, Allegra felt like she was made of threads, pulled in every direction, unraveling. The ocean at least didn't ask questions. Behind her, she heard the crunch of sand under boots. Her pulse jumped. She didn't turn. She didn't need to. Kai. He stopped a few feet behind her. She felt the heat of him in the dying light. I thought you were checking the perimeter, she said, her voice quiet but steady. I was, he replied. Then what are you doing here? There was a pause. Then, softly, watching you. She turned then. His shirt was half unbuttoned, sleeves rolled up, hair mussed by the wind. The bruises on his knuckles from the earlier fight hadn't faded. But his eyes, they were the part of him that gave everything away. They burned. With restraint. With longing. With something far more dangerous than either. She swallowed. You've been quiet since this morning. I've been thinking. She gave a dry laugh. That's always dangerous. His expression didn't change. You're not safe here anymore. Not even with me. She flinched. What are you talking about? He stepped closer, just enough for her to see the flicker of something behind his eyes, something final. I'm leaving. The words felt like a slap. Allegra blinked once. Twice. What? I've arranged for one of my best men to take over, Kai said, his voice maddeningly calm. He'll be here tomorrow. I'll brief him. He's ex-Me6, off-grid. You'll be in good hands. She didn't speak. Her brain was trying to process the whiplash, from bullets and confessions and kisses and fire, to this. This isn't a game, she said finally. You can't just vanish again. I'm not vanishing, he said. I'm walking away. On purpose. She took a step forward. Why? Because it's not about us, Allegra. His voice was too steady. Too cold. It was the voice of a man building a wall as he spoke. It never was. It's about keeping you alive. You said you wanted protection. I gave it to you. You said you wanted to fight, I trained you. But if I stay? His throat moved as he swallowed. If I stay, I'll do something I can't take back. She stared at him, breathing hard. Like what? Like love you the way I want to. The words hung in the air between them. Raw. Scorching. Irrevocable. She stepped forward until their bodies were nearly touching, the sea lapping at their feet like a heartbeat. I want you to love me, she whispered. You're the only person who ever did without asking for something in return. He reached up, brushing a strand of wet hair from her cheek. His hand trembled. Then, as if the moment had always belonged to them, he kissed her. Not the soft, uncertain kiss from the villa. Not the desperate kiss from Marrakech. This kiss was slow. Devastating. It tasted like salt and fire and every goodbye she never agreed to. His hands slid into her hair, holding her as if he knew he'd never be this close again. She wrapped her arms around his neck, her body molding to his like a second skin, wanting to anchor him, to stop time, to rewrite fate. But when they broke apart, he was already pulling away. I have to go, he whispered, not looking at her. She stepped back. And slapped him. Hard. The sound cracked across the quiet beach like a pistol shot. Kai didn't move. His head turned slightly from the impact, but he didn't raise a hand to stop her. His jaw clenched, a muscle ticking in his cheek. Allegra's chest heaved. You're a coward. He met her eyes. I know. You think you're saving me by leaving. You think I need another man making choices for me. You need to survive, he said. Not, feel something. But I do, she hissed. I feel everything. I feel like you're the only person who sees me. I feel like I've waited 3 years for you to stop running. And now you're doing it again. His eyes softened. It's not about running anymore. Then what is it? It's about not being the reason they kill you. Allegra stepped back, the wind pulling at her hair, the sea splashing against her legs like an afterthought. Then go, she said, her voice shaking. Leave like you always do. But don't you dare kiss me again and pretend it's mercy. He didn't answer. He just turned. Walked away. Slowly. With every step, it felt like the world tilted further off its axis. And Allegra, alone now on the beach, barefoot and burning, watched the only man she ever truly wanted disappear into the shadows again. But this time, she wasn't sure if she'd ever forgive him for it. Chapter 11, The Ultimatum. The email hit her like a bullet. Allegra stared at the screen on her encrypted tablet, hands numb, pulse hollow. The subject line glared back at her like a punchline written in glass. Confirmation of transfer $10 million. Her breath stalled in her throat as her eyes flicked to the sender. Global Finance, Zurich. Recipient, Wolfe Global Holdings, offshore account. Note, per agreement, as discussed. Effective immediately. Signed, Jax Moreau. Her father. A $10 million bribe. And Kai had taken it. Allegra felt something deep and wild unravel inside her chest. Her skin went cold, but her heart kept pounding like it didn't get the message. She tried to speak, to say something, anything, but her voice had vanished. It had been less than 24 hours since Kai kissed her on the beach. Less than a day since he whispered, I want to love you like I shouldn't. Less than a lifetime since she thought, for one fragile second, that they might actually make it. And now, he was gone. Not just from her bed, but from her life. The room tilted. The villa spun around her like a carousel of betrayal. She reached for the desk to steady herself, fingers knocking over a pen, her tablet nearly slipping from her hands. He sold her. He'd promised her protection, and a future, and something more than pain, and he sold her for $10 million. Her father had warned her this would happen. Not in words, but in smug smiles and cruel silences. They always leave, darling. They just wait for the right number. Allegra had screamed at him then. Thrown a baccarat vase across the parlor. Sworn she'd never become her mother, frozen, married off, trapped behind glass. But maybe she already had. She stormed out onto the villa deck, the sky blazing with late afternoon sun. The waves below sparkled like nothing had happened, like the world didn't know it had just collapsed. She hit the emergency call button Kai had programmed into her bracelet. No answer. She tried the comms channel he gave her. Static. She opened the tracking app. Offline. Gone. An hour later, she stood in the villa's armory, barefoot, still in his abandoned shirt, staring down at the weapons locker. She didn't know what she was looking for. Revenge. Proof. Closure. She found none of it. Instead, she found a crisp white envelope taped to the inside of the locker door. Her name written across it in Kai's impossible, precise handwriting. She opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. His handwriting again. Sharp. Efficient. Familiar. Allegra. This wasn't my choice. But you'll be safer without me. There are things you don't know. I'm sorry. Kay. That was it. No goodbye. No explanation. Just a line about safety, and the haunting suggestion of secrets she wasn't allowed to know. Allegra's hands shook. She felt her heart collapsing in slow motion. Because this wasn't just betrayal. It was abandonment. Again. And again. And again. Men who kissed her when the lights were low and left her before the sun came up. Men who made promises like poetry and broke them like bones. First her father. Then Lucien. And now Kai. Only Kai had been different. He hadn't just seen her. He'd saved her. He'd fought for her. He'd kissed her like he wanted to make the whole world disappear. But in the end, he took the money. She sat down on the floor, her knees folding beneath her, the envelope falling from her fingers. And for the first time in years, she cried. Not a single, elegant tear down one cheek. No. This was messy, raw, soul-wrecking sobbing. Ugly and gasping and loud. The kind of cry that had been building since she was 8 years old and told to sit still and smile while her life was bought and sold around her. The kind of cry that Kai Wolfe would never see. Because he was gone. And all she had left was a wire transfer, a broken heart, and a villa that suddenly felt like a prison. Chapter 12, Fake Goodbye. The island felt colder now. The heat hadn't vanished, but the warmth was gone. As if the villa, the jungle, and the sea itself had conspired to match the freeze in Allegra's chest. The storm had passed. The skies were painfully clear. But inside, everything remained in ruins. Her eyes were raw. Her throat burned from crying. She hadn't eaten. Hadn't slept. The villa was silent, every trace of Kai scrubbed from its walls like he'd never existed. Like he'd been a fever dream wrapped in muscle and lies. The $10 million transfer confirmed it. His letter confirmed it. And so, finally, did her silence. Allegra no longer wanted answers. She just wanted out. "Take me off this island," she said to the pilot. The man blinked. "Mr. Wolfe instructed us to wait until." "Mr. Wolfe," she cut in, her voice hard and low, "isn't coming back." She climbed into the speedboat, her oversized sunglasses barely hiding the redness in her eyes, her chin high despite the tremble beneath it. The white canvas duffel bag by her feet held the bare minimum: passport, a burner phone, and a crushed envelope she hadn't had the strength to throw away. The engine roared to life. The boat lurched forward across the glittering turquoise water. And Allegra Moreau, runaway bride, vanished from the island like a fallen queen slipping into exile. Back on the island, half a mile away, deep inside a hidden command room beneath Villa May, Kai Wolfe watched the boat pull away from a satellite feed. He said nothing. His jaw was tight, arms crossed, heart a stone lodged behind his ribs. "Signals confirmed," said Malik, his top agent, seated at the control panel beside him. "She's headed toward the decoy vessel, just like you planned." Kai nodded once. "Good. Want me to intercept and debrief her on the situation?" "No." Malik hesitated. "Sir, with all due respect, if she finds out from anyone else." "She won't." Kai stepped forward and tapped the screen. A map unfolded, glowing red markers blinking across it. Each marker was a ping. Each ping, a threat. Lucien's network had activated 6 new offshore accounts in the last 48 hours. One had wired funds to a freelance strike team operating near May. Another had booked out the entire top floor of a 5-star resort across the island, under a Moreau shell company. The trap was working. But the price? It felt like murder. Kai ran a hand through his hair, exhaling hard. "They'll go for the decoy now." She was the bait. Malik frowned. "You really think Lucien will move that fast?" "He wants her back in a cage. He wants control. And now he thinks I sold her out and walked away. That's exactly the story he wants to believe." Malik looked at him sideways. "Does she know she's a decoy?" Kai didn't answer. Malik winced. "You didn't tell her. She wouldn't have agreed. She could have died." Kai's voice was low, final. "Not on my watch." Silence settled like dust in the room. Malik finally turned back to the screen. "You ever plan on telling her you never took the money?" Kai stared at the screen, eyes unreadable. He remembered the way she kissed him on the beach. The way she slapped him. The way her eyes shattered when he said he was leaving. "I'd rather she hate me and stay alive," he said. Malik muttered, "Man, I hope you're better at surviving bullets than broken hearts." Kai didn't respond. Meanwhile, on the boat, Allegra sat curled beneath the canvas canopy, knees pulled to her chest. The wind whipped through her hair. The horizon stretched wide and empty ahead. She'd thought leaving Paris was the hardest thing she'd ever do. She'd been wrong. This was heartbreak redefined. Because this time, she hadn't just run away from a man who used her. She'd run away from the only man who ever made her feel seen. She pulled Kai's envelope from her bag again. Opened it. Read the 3 lines for the 100th time. "This wasn't my choice. But you'll be safer without me. There are things you don't know." Her heart screamed. Then why didn't you tell me? But the waves offered no answer. Neither did the man who wasn't there. So she sat in silence, salt on her lips, tears in her throat, heading straight into a future she hadn't chosen, and didn't understand. Unaware that the real danger hadn't passed. It was just beginning.
Thanks for listening to Billionaire Romance Stories, where love meets luxury in the most unexpected places. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. We love hearing your favorite twists and wild theories. And don't forget to ring that bell, because in this world of yachts, secrets, and steamy romance, the next story is always one scandal away.